Fayetteville City Council has decided to rename North Plantation Avenue and West Chattel Street. North Plantation will become North Garden Street and West Chattel will become West Reflection Street. The vote comes after city staff and residents both recommended the change because of the name's association with slavery. Change will affect 32 different addresses on the streets and will take effect come January 1st. Even though a spending bill that would allocate money to build a 3,000-bed prison in Franklin County failed 5 times last week and will not be heard again this year, the state is moving forward with that project. The Board of Corrections, in fact, tonight talked about hiring an architect for the project using money already set aside. 5 News reporter Lauren Spencer has details from that meeting.
Already given the prison $75 million and permission to spend it, so we'll continue with architecture and engineering plans.
This comes as a Senate bill that would have allocated $750 million to the project failed to get the required 3/4 majority vote 5 separate times in the Senate. Last week, State Senator Bart Hester said he doesn't plan to hold another vote for the bill for the remainder of the session. At a Board of Corrections meeting, they voted to select an architect for a new state prison.
The Architect Selection Committee recommends HDR Cromwell as the design professional for the prison project in Franklin County. They were able to answer our questions clearly. They were able to answer questions off cue. Cromwell has 150 plus employees, and they're actually based out of Arkansas. And so there is a personal connection to the state there.
Chairman Betty Magnus advocated for changing the wording to a new prison building rather than having a location.
For a new prison, regardless where it goes. And then if you want to say Franklin County, you know, we've already put an architect in charge of doing the Calico Rock, then it got pulled. And so that's why I'm wondering if we just should say architect for a new prison in case something was to ever happen. We don't have to come back through this process.
Covering news where you live, Lauren Spencer, 5 News.
Speaking of that prison, there was a suggestion made last week by a local state senator who to look at Fort Chaffee as possible site for that project. It would require the city, though, of Fort Smith to supply water services. At tonight's Fort Smith City Directors meeting, Director Neil Martin wanted to make sure this is not going to be considered.
I just want to clarify. There have been 0 discussions between the state of Arkansas, legislators, in the city of Fort Smith about building a prison in Fort Smith or Chaffee Crossing.
0.
0.
0 discussion.
None whatsoever.
Correct.
Okay. I want to make sure everybody hears that.
Directors did approve spending about $600,000 on new police department vehicles. The package includes 8 SUVs as patrol vehicles and 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Also new at 10, Fort Smith School Board approved a $225,000 a year contract for newly appointed Superintendent Marty Mahan. That'll start July 1st. Mahan was selected last week to replace Dr. Terry Murawski. The board tonight also appointed Mahan as acting superintendent for the rest of the school year, which basically lets Dr. Murawski out of his contract. New tonight, with just a day to go in the legislative session, Arkansas lawmakers have sent the governor a bill that will completely overhaul the state library board. Senate bill passed 60-29 tonight in the House. If it is signed into law, all 7 current board members would be fired, and Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders would appoint their replacements. Once appointed, the new members will serve staggered terms ranging from 1 to 7 years. Tonight's vote comes just days after a more drastic proposal to completely abolish the library board failed to get through a committee. A bill that would save Arkansans money at the grocery store now awaiting the governor's signature. The bill to eliminate the state grocery tax has passed both the House and Senate. Right now, when you buy grocery items, you're taxed at 12.5 cents for every $100 you spend. Statewide, supporters of the bill say it will save shoppers about $10 million collectively every year. But it is important to note that not all of the taxes on your groceries are going away.
When we go up this messaging saying the state's eliminating your tax on groceries, people think that it will be zero, but the state's eliminating what we can control on your groceries. Your local cities and your local counties are still in Arkansas taxing your groceries, so there will still be a little bit.
Once the governor signs the measure, it will go into effect on January 1st. She announced support for the legislation when it was introduced this year. Meanwhile, the governor announcing today she's asking the USDA to take certain junk foods off the list of approved items for SNAP benefits in the state. Makes Arkansas the first state to formally request to remove items like sugary drinks and candy from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. More than 100,000 households across the state receive food benefits every month. Now, if the plan is approved, it would take effect in July of next year. A 30-day public comment period, by the way, is open on this issue right now. City leaders and law enforcement in Conway today gave an update on that deadly mass shooting at a park on Sunday. In total, 2 people were killed, 9 were hurt. As of now, no one has been arrested. Carter Thweet has the latest from police and shares what one victim's family wants everyone to know.
Sunday evening at approximately 7:45 p.m., officers responded to reports of shots fired at 5th Avenue Park here in our city.
Tuesday morning at City Hall, Conway Police Chief Chris Harris laid out what law enforcement knows about the shooting. The statistics are shocking. At least 6 weapons used, over 100 rounds fired, 9 people injured, with 2 dead.
2 were pronounced deceased at the scene. Tatiana Penister, age 24, from England, Arkansas, and Demetrius Feimster II, age 23, out of Little Rock.
Mayor Bart Castleberry spoke too, making it clear that the party that led to the shooting was put on by an out-of-town organizer who did not have a permit to hold such a party. The revelation leading to questions for Harris on why the party wasn't shut down.
I understand members of the community have questions, especially about Sunday, on why, how this was allowed to happen, and I've explained that we did not find out till Sunday afternoon.
Harris says that didn't leave them enough time to talk to every person at the party and figure out if anyone had a permit or if it was even an event that needed one. Things were much quieter at the park Tuesday morning. The only people there, families of the 2 victims who set up memorials for them. Demetrius Feimster's girlfriend was there Sunday night.
I ran and ducked behind the car, and my homegirl, she looked at me and she was like, "We okay?" And as soon as she said that, I just peeped around the car and he was just laying on the ground.
Both his girlfriend and little sister telling me this doesn't feel real, and they're not sure if it ever will. Other family members telling me he was a class clown, the life of the party, and a former football standout at Little Rock Parkview. But above all,
he was not a selfish person at all. He loved his family down. He would do anything for them. Anytime you called, he was gonna come. Anything you needed, he was gonna make a way.
He always picked up the phone, no matter what it was. If he was 3 hours away, you called him, he was coming. He always made sure everybody was okay.
Carter Thweet, 5 News.
A judge in Fort Smith has approved John Cole's request to defend himself in his upcoming murder trial. Cole charged with murder in the 2021 death of Jeremiah Hawthorne. He was already sentenced to more than 30 years in prison after pleading guilty to the murder of another man in Arizona. Sebastian County issued its own arrest affidavit this month after that case wrapped up in Arizona. Cole is in the Sebastian County Jail. His trial set to start sometime in July. We have learned tonight that Arkansas's request for federal funding in response to storms last month have been denied by the White House. This is video showing the aftermath of that EF4 in the Cave City area on March 14th. 3 people across the state died in the severe weather outbreak that day. Damage reported in 17 counties from the storms. The governor says she's preparing an appeal to that denial. The state is also expected to request a disaster declaration for the April 2nd storms that brought very heavy rain and flash flooding to towns across the state. Because of those floods, Arkansas is among more than a dozen states that have been given an extension to file taxes. Tonight at midnight is the deadline, but the IRS announced the extension yesterday because of the flash flooding. State taxpayers that request the extension from the IRS will be given until November 3rd to file. We've told you about plans for a new housing project on Dixon Street in Fayetteville over the last few months, and this week the plan failed when it went before the Fayetteville Planning Commission. The building would have provided more than 600 units catered to U of A students and young professionals. Commissioners rejected the plan at last night's meeting after looking at a study that confirms the traffic impact in downtown Fayetteville. Today, we spoke with the U of A about plans to accommodate a growing student population now that the Dixon Street development is not going to happen.
We're in the design and development phase of building a new residence hall, and that's going to be about 700 plus new beds that are going to be, for those of you who know campus a little bit, near Maple Hill.
That new housing is set to be ready for students to move in 2028. It'll be the second door built in the last 10 years on campus.